Salutations, listeners.
Vala Magulis.
Nanu, nanu. Thank you for tuning in. This is Three Men and a Basement, and we are the Ultra Crepidarians. My name is Colin McLeod.
Mark Alpier.
Action Jackson.
And in this podcast, we like to review movies, allegedly. And
Can't prove it.
Well, no, you can't prove it. It's like some type of very complicated physics
Aren't
experiment.
we literally creating the proof right now? The proof is in the pudding.
I do not see any pudding.
Are we
And
eating
now I would
pudding?
like some.
We eating pudding?
What kind of pudding?
Oh,
Put that away!
I don't know if I'm going to leave that in the podcast.
Leave it in.
In this podcast, we review movies and deliver to you, the listener, an average schmuck's opinion about hidden gems in the wide world of cinema. In this podcast, we try and target movies that are not total blockbuster smashes. We also aim for ones that are not so obscure that you couldn't get your hands on a copy even if you wanted to. Instead, we aim for that delightful sweet spot right in the middle, movies that are, let's say, accessible.
Familiar adjacent?
You can find it at your local library if you looked hard enough.
Yeah, I mean, you can find a lot at your local library.
Yeah.
Because we love libraries on the show, don't we, Mark?
We love libraries. All the dictionaries.
All of them.
Even the all the books?
Yes.
All right.
So we deliver to you our opinion about whether or not these movies are worth tracking down, finding at your local library, popping in your phonograph or 8mm projector, perhaps.
I prefer 35.
Oh,
Cranking up that steam engine, getting the
pretentious.
things moving.
I don't get out of bed for less than 36.
Yeah.
And seeing if it's worth your time watching them. In this, the 39th episode of the podcast, we review the movie
Loser.
That was organic.
That was beautiful.
It came
That
out.
just
I'm really happy. We all lived through the 90s, and we just took a piece of the 90s out of ourselves, transplanted into the microphone.
I do that quite often.
I had a hint of Jim Carrey in mind. The hair.
You did. You put that flavor on it. But again,
it still fit.
90s, right? Like, it's perfectly appropriate.
I was going for more of an Avril Lavigne vibe.
Ooh.
I was going for... Damn it, I don't have a Spice Girls.
Yeah,
Spice Girls! Didn't have a reference there.
Pinky Spice.
Yeah, Spice.
We also would have accepted Dixie Chick.
I was Loser Spice. So we reviewed Loser this week. Guys, who's seen this movie?
I have never seen it.
Not I.
I've seen this movie so many fucking times, it's crazy. This movie was like a childhood favorite of mine. I grew up with it. It's a very low investment movie for me. I can have it on the background. I know almost every line. You know those movies where you get home from the bar? Not that I drink at a bar, because what am I, fucking Elon Musk here?
Right.
No. You're done drinking at home, drowning your sorrows.
Yep.
Boons.
And a bottle of Boone's Farm in one hand, a bottle of Manchevitz in the other.
Oh, yeah.
And you are questioning your life's decisions. And you're like, well, my eyeballs need to do something too.
Put down the Malort, walk away from the ginger beer.
What do? You go and you put on the movie Loser, which is a delight, let's say.
Yes. Allegedly.
2000 movie, came out in the year 2000. Y2K, guys. Woo, come on. Woo. Right?
I mean, I was there.
The new millennium.
Also there.
The new millennium.
I was concerned my calculator was going to blow up.
Mark has calculated concerns. Rated PG-13.
Yeah.
Square in the 5 out of 10 on PG-13. Square in the middle.
I think we had a single F-bomb, but that's the worst of it.
And that's PG-13, right? It's like you're
that
allowed
is the
one
standard.
F-bomb. 1 hour and 38 minutes. I think it went faster than that.
I felt like this one was a tight 90.
Yeah, yes, but that only shaves 8 minutes. I would say probably even more than that. I would say this movie was maybe an hour 20, hour 15.
And I'm glad it wasn't longer.
At least.
This movie didn't need to be any longer.
No.
I felt like it hit the money spot, in terms of runtime.
Genres, what do we got?
Rom-com!
Yeah, what is the IMDb? It just says romance comedy.
Yep.
Yeah, they don't have a rom-com category.
So it's comedy romance.
But it's a rom-com.
But yeah, I mean, I don't even know if This felt like it was comedy and it was romance. I don't know. When I think rom-com, I think movies like Sleepless in Seattle or Fools Rush In. This felt more like heavier.
Or Fools Rush Into Seattle.
Yep.
Yes. While you were sleeping in Seattle. While you were sleeping?
This movie sounds like a war movie. Yeah. Rush into Seattle while they're sleeping.
Right.
Kill them in their sleep, slit their throats. Take Seattle at all costs.
It wouldn't take much.
You just gotta wake them up.
They're in their fortress. Quick, light a joint and just leave it outside. They'll come out of their own accord.
If you light it, they will come.
That's true. But would you... what do you guys think of that? Like, I feel like comedy and romance are separate elements in this movie. It's clearly...
I disagree, but I do understand what you're saying, and I do see your point. But where I disagree is that this had distinct flavors of other classic rom-coms, such as Serendipity, You've Got Mail. This definitely had all of the same ingredients, maybe mixed a little differently. You know, there was a lot of... Before we get into spoilers territory, I think that this fits squarely into the definition of rom-com.
Fair.
I'm going to side with Jackson on this one. I think this is squarely a rom-com, and I think there are subjective reasons why a casual viewer might, like Mark said, not think it's a rom-com, or not think it fits that formula perfectly, and I'll get into them a little bit more in spoilers, but I do think that subjectively it might feel like it deviates slightly from rom-com. Objectively, I don't think you could make an argument that would make this not a rom-com, because it does fit the formula.
And I would also just kind of add to it, I don't want to like belabor the genres, but like, were this movie to come out today, it might even flirt with like the raunch-com genre.
Yeah.
You know? I think that back in 2000, when this movie had come out, the bits, the comedy... Well, I mean, we found different things funny back then.
Yeah.
You know? And...
It was quirky.
Yeah.
There was quirk to it.
Yep, it was goofy.
I feel like quirk has sort of disappeared. Anybody else feel like quirk is like just not a thing anymore?
Isn't Quark the dude with the ears? Star Trek? I haven't seen him in a long time. I think that show's canceled.
Is it?
Quark has probably disappeared.
Maybe. Yeah, quirks just come in and out of existence all the time.
I mean, they're always popping out. Sometimes you try to pop them in, but they don't go back in.
Yeah.
Quarks are corks, man.
Corks are pork.
Ooh, I'm going pork over cork.
Always pork and cork.
But are we cork and pork?
That's the sex thing.
Yeah. Jeez. Filthy mind over here.
Okay.
Okay, so who directed this movie? Actually, I'm going to give this one. Amy Heckerling. Okay, what else did Amy do? She directed Clueless.
Yeah.
She did a lot of television. A couple episodes of The Office, Gossip Girl, Vamps. Look Who's Talking. Look Who's Talking 2. Oh, shit. National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Fast Times.
Fast Times at Ridgemont High? No way.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Wow, she's a heavy hitter. I'd never heard her name before, but the reason I wanted to call it out was she was both the writer and director on this movie. And we've talked about this before, but there's something about when the same person writes and directs that has a tendency to make a movie so fucking seamless.
Yeah.
Right? It flows so much nicer when the person who had the vision on the page has the vision through the lens.
And nothing gets lost in translation or interpretation.
Right.
There's no creative differences. There's no...
The writer's not sitting there going like, I envisioned it like this, and you're not doing that.
And the director
now it
says,
doesn't work.
well, that's not flashy enough.
Right. Michael Bay. We're coming for you, Michael Bay.
There's no explosions and no titties, but there's no problem with that because she's the boss, and she said so.
Michael Bay's that dude from Mystery Men, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
He was in that room.
He was the frat boy. He was
Gotcha.
one of the frat boys.
Gotcha. I thought I'd recognize that name.
Yeah. I believe he also has a Morton toe.
Allegedly.
Oh, that's alleged?
Alleged.
Oh, God.
There's no proof of that.
I think we're going to have to send Mike Tyson to figure this out.
Yeah.
So who was in this movie? I don't think our listeners maybe even know any of the people that are in this movie.
So...
Sarcasm.
Hashtag sarcasm.
Facetious.
Hashtag.
This is like one of my go-to Jason Biggs movies. Like, everybody knows Jason Biggs from... He's the main character in American Pie. They even poked fun of that in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. He's like, you're just the pie fucker. He's like, nobody ever says, like, hey, great job and, this and that and blah, blah, blah. You're just always the pie fucker. He's such a good actor. And my go-tos for him, American Pie, sure. But really, this and Saving Silverman were two that I really sort of grew up on. I loved
Saving Silverman.
And I mean, Jason Biggs just fucking nails all of these roles.
Yes.
Even though he is, many of them are kind of similar, right?
Right.
I wouldn't call him a one-trick pony. I think he's a good actor. I think he just kind of got typecast there for a little bit.
A couple trick ponies.
It's like a couple trick ponies. He plays that sort of angsty, meek guy really well. In the same way that, like, I would say Jason Biggs was perhaps the Michael Cera of his day.
Right.
But both of them have demonstrated that they can do more than what they've been cast to do.
So the next one on the list, Mena Suvari.
Oh, Mena Suvari.
You might not be intimately familiar with her, but you definitely know her. She was Heather in American Pie.
If you were attracted to women and had at least one sexual thought by the year 2000, you know who Mena Suvari is.
Yep.
And when I say Mena Suvari, you're going to go,
Yeah.
She's a pretty lady. She's just a pretty lady.
with full war
Very
hats.
nice.
Yeah. But she does have that, like, we mentioned it, like, in the beginning, like, she's got that, like, you know, there's, like, different decades have, like, different, like...
Like, Twiggy is 60s hot.
She's got, like, she's 90s hot.
She's 90s
She's
hot.
90s hot.
And being a collection of millennials here.
Oh,
you
fuck.
know.
She's so 90s hot.
I blame the 90s for creating unrealistic beauty standards because I have never once found my manic pixie dream girl.
This is being recorded, and your wife might listen to this.
She won't.
But your mother-in-law might.
So confident. He's so confident. No, you know. Okay, so there's like a bunch of different elements to this. In this movie, she's basically like a less perpetually disgusted Daria walked into real life. She was kind of that,
She's like a goth Meg Ryan.
like an Avril
but she's not
Lavigne.
like goth. She's like 90s like grunge goth.
Yeah.
which is not this like
It's
that's
not
not
the
pure
same.
goth. They're not purebreds.
It's a different flavor.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a lot of different elements that make her super hot. She's got like the plaid skirt and like the sort of like pumped Mary Janes and all this stuff. But like what really always gets me, like just no questions asked, always gets me, is like the two like strands or pieces of hair on either side of the head that is like down in the face. There's nothing that will not make that hot to me. For the rest of my days, that will be the hottest thing.
I believe they
so dumb.
I believe they call that a peekaboo bang.
I don't know what it's called, but it's so dumb how flawlessly that works on me.
And there's something about it because not only is it very pleasing to look at, but then there's also the fun little tease of pulling it behind the ear.
Yeah, but maybe
Yep.
we dissect, why is it pleasing to look at?
Because
What is it? What is the
Because we were
intangible-
reaching sexual maturity when it was the most popular haircut amongst the angsty teenage girls that we were into.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right, who else is in this?
Okay, so Zach Orth, a lot of people will know his face. He was in Wet Hot American Summer. He played JJ in Wet Hot American Summer. He was also in Romeo and Juliet. There's also Thomas Sadowski. He's been in things. He was in John Wick. He's in a couple of other movies that you'd probably recognize.
I know him from Life in Pieces.
Yes, he was in Life in Pieces.
You know, people might know the next one, Jimmy Simpson.
Jimmy Simpson.
I would not have been able to pull out his name. He doesn't
Right.
have name recognition for me, but his face.
Yeah.
Yes, he's in a bunch of stuff as a
Always
bit actor.
Sunny.
Always Sunny. He plays one of the McPoyles.
That's what it is.
Yes.
That's
Wait, one of the we should specify because there's a lot of McPoyles.
Liam
McPoyle, one of the McPoyle twins
Yes.
that have let's say a complicated relationship.
Yeah, he was also in HBO's Westworld, the reboot.
Oh yeah, he was.
Yep.
He's a really talented actor.
So this next guy, I don't think anybody's ever actually heard him, so I'm going to shed some light and give him some exposure. Greg Kinnear?
I think it's pronounced Kynar.
Kynar.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
I thought it was like a French, like Kinnear.
Kinnear. Oh, that makes sense.
It is
Yeah.
probably how he would pronounce it.
Oh, he's French Canadian, probably.
Oh, that, yeah. Greg Kinnear. You know him from Mystery Men, As Good as It Gets, Sabrina, You've Got Mail, which I've already mentioned.
Little Miss Sunshine too. Is a
Little
big
Miss
one for him.
Sunshine.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
he plays the father in Little Miss Sunshine. He's a Flash of Genius. He's the main character in Flash of Genius, which is on our list to review.
So, keeping with the theme of like kind of underrated, nobody's probably heard of these actors. Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, I thought it was Aykroyd.
Oh, it might be. It might be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be that long
Like
vowel
Acorn,
sound.
Aykroyd.
Yeah.
Didn't he used to, like, hunt spirits or something?
No, he was the vodka guy.
He was the vodka
yeah.
guy.
That's how people know him.
Yep.
Yeah, this movie, I honestly don't know what it is. It may be because, it could be because Amy Heckerling, the writer-director, was like kind of a heavy hitter. She may have made a lot of friends, maybe, in Hollywood. I know this happens sometimes, but like, the cameo cast on this was fucking...
It was outstanding.
ridiculous. So I'm just gonna rapid fire through these.
Yeah.
If that's all right, just we don't, because there's so many. But you got Dan Aykroyd. Everybody, Ghostbusters. Everybody knows Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, yeah.
David Spade of Tommy Boy fame and Black Sheep. Joe Dirt. You've got Stephen Wright, who, again, fans of comedy in the 90s. Stephen Wright had this really just amazing sort of dry delivery. He also, if you're familiar with Guy on the Couch in Half Baked, he was Guy on Couch. Andy Dick, who...
He plays another city worker.
Yep.
And he's the worst in real life.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
In this movie.
Yeah.
I actually heard a great story about, like, I guess John Lovitz beat the shit out of Andy Dick one time.
Why am I not surprised?
And John Lovitz, by all accounts, even though he plays, like, the worst characters, like, apparently he's just the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And I won't go into too much detail from what I heard, but basically it amounted to Andy Dick pressured Phil Hartman's wife into doing drugs with him, which destabilized her after she was sober, and then caused her to sort of snap and then ultimately kill Phil Hartman. And then Andy Dick was bragging about it in a club later on, and John Lovitz, who was Phil Hartman's very close friend, overheard him, like, bragging about this and beat the shit out of him.
I would too,
and
honestly.
I feel like that is completely justified.
Yeah.
Well, his name is Andy Dick.
Yeah, he kind of lives up to that.
Last name on the list for me, Andrea Martin. Name is not recognizable to me, but she played Aunt Vula in Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Oh my god, she's so good. And she's also, for those of you who are fans of Only Murders in the Building,
Oh, yes.
she's in that. She plays Steve Martin's love interest coming out of season 2 and into season 3.
Yes.
And then there's also Twink Kaplan, who I always remember as Miss Geiger, something like that, Geiger, from Clueless, when they try to hook up two teachers. One of them is Sean Vicini.
Oh, yeah.
Sean
Wallace. Or
Wallace Shawn.
Wallace
there it
Shawn.
is, Wallace Shawn. And one of them is Twink Kaplan. Miss Geist. That's what it is, Miss Geist. Yeah. Anyway, we could go on. There's probably more
I guarantee there's more.
cameos in this, but let's move on. What is our IMDb summary? How the fuck did we knock out the summary yet?
Well,
Man, we got to lead with that,
There's
right?
a lot going on here. But if you guys don't mind, I might jump in.
Go for it.
So,
Do not.
a college student, branded a loser by his roommates and booted from the dorm, falls in love with a co-ed who has eyes for their condescending professor.
That's it.
That's the nuts and bolts.
I feel like I underestimated people's ability to, like, summarize, because I'm not very good at it. I feel like I could not have summarized this movie in, like, one line, and that was fucking it.
That was it.
It didn't give away the
Nothing
meat
else in
potatoes,
there.
you know. No. So would we recommend this thing?
Yep.
Affirmative.
Yeah. It's of its time, and I feel like I say that every week. You know.
You're so bad
But-
for that. It's of its time.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. Well, we'll go into why I enjoyed it in Spoilers.
Spoilers? So, are you saying we're ready to blah, 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 blah?
Well, I'm prepped.
Blah, 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 blah.
Wah, 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 wah.
Bwap.
I went full teenage boy at the end there.
It's alright. That's alright.
No, it cracked.
Listen, your voice did exactly what your voice was doing when this movie came out,
Yeah.
which was that.
Yeah. That's about right.
Yep.
Just changing octaves because fucking why not?
Yeah.
It keeps things interesting.
Why pick one?
Good point.
So many to choose from.
Yeah.
Okay, so
How's it open?
we're in spoilers now.
So the movie opens with Jason Biggs' character Paul and his entire family standing by the mailbox waiting for the postman
Oh yeah, it like jumps right in.
for his college acceptance letter. And he got the big envelope, which means, yay, college! And they have this massive party at their house with seemingly everybody they know.
Not massive by objective standards.
No, but massive for
massive-
a small-town rural community
Massive
of
for, like,
farmers.
Clearwater, Minnesota,
Yeah.
where,
Well, people were close enough that I got uncomfortable. You know, people were like hopping over each other to dance in like
It was a classic 90s party, but with grandmas and grandpas.
yeah, like it was a close family. Like
Yeah.
everyone was within 24 inches of each other,
And
the entire
presumably one of his younger cousins grabs him and is like, come dance with me! And then the dance floor is in front of the refrigerator.
time. Right, because they have a small house.
Yeah.
this was not a COVID-safe party.
No.
And you get the sense when he's dancing with his cousins. It's your first introduction that, like, he is clearly the loser here. He's supposed to be graduating from high school, and, like, he doesn't know how to dance. He's learning these moves from his cousins. And he's not learning the moves in the kind of, like, I just straight up don't know how to dance kind of way, but in these sort of, like, awkward...
I'm really bad at this kind of way.
I'm really bad at this.
It was fucking like it was so wholesome though. Like the first couple of scenes when he's at home, it was wholesome. You know, the lessons he's getting from his dad, the way he hugged his sister or whatever. Like it felt very comfortable.
It was close. It was warm.
But we'll come to learn close and comfortable and warm in the wrong context can also mean naive.
Yes.
And that's kind of what happens, right? So he moves to New York City. They don't say where he's going, but you kind of get the vibe it might be NYU.
Yeah.
A reasonably competitive school in downtown New York. And he is in the dorms. He gets placed with these 3 guys who all seem to know each other, which is like a little inexplicable, but they all sort of like already know each other and they vibe in the worst way.
Yeah. Ed, and Eddie. Mm-hmm. That's not their names, but that's like the vibe. Like they were
shit, and shitty.
Yeah, they were.
These dudes are just the fucking worst.
Oh,
and there's
absolutely.
like certain obvious issues with their behavior throughout the movie, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but they are like villainous, even from like a sort of late 90s, early 2000s standpoint.
Yeah, they were frat bros, more or less, but they were not good.
All 3 of them were a waste of an acceptance letter.
Yeah, openly manipulative, extremely shallow,
Deceitful.
Rapey?
Immoral.
exceedingly rapey.
But in that like weird, like, I don't acknowledge what I'm doing is like assault.
Right.
And I think, like, that's why you got to give this movie props, is, like, feel like it's the kind of thing that was, like, at the time, jokier back then. And I feel like this movie didn't make it jokey at all.
No.
And it really took a stance on it, and I appreciate this movie for that. Is like, these dudes are not confused or stupid. They're predators.
100%.
And they're predators in, like, a bunch of different ways. In the obvious way, but also in, like, they're preying on Paul and taking advantage of him and using and abusing him. They're just really shitty people.
Yep.
So he gets placed with these guys, and he is on a scholarship. He's trying his best to maintain a certain GPA so he doesn't lose his scholarship. Meanwhile, they are partying, wrecking everything, breaking all of his shit,
Gluing his books together.
But it was a joke, man.
Yeah, I thought it'd be funny.
I thought you'd laugh.
But what's interesting is that, like, they were assholes to him, and he just kept taking it. And there's, like, a scene where, like, he, like, buys a 6-pack of beer, and he brings it because he wants their acceptance. And in that same moment, he realizes that they have kicked him out of the room. They've worked to have him removed because he's too much of a loser for them, even though he's doing everything he can to be one of them.
Under, like, not only false pretenses, but, like, the exact opposite. They basically accuse him of everything that they are guilty of in order to get him kicked out of the dorm.
And in order to ingratiate himself and not cause problems, he's like, yeah, I did all those things. Absolutely. I'm a horrible person. You should kick me out.
Well, also because he wanted to get the fuck away from them.
Yep.
And didn't want to deal with any, like, lingering, I have to go through this dog and pony show of, like, I'm trying really hard, and then it doesn't work out. Like, just, I'll admit to all this bullshit and get me the fuck out of here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where does he go?
He goes to the vet. Like,
the weirdest vet clinic ever.
yeah, like, I just...
Wouldn't you?
Maybe this is a thing, I've just never heard of it, but, like, it's a vet that has, like, an office that they rented out, presumably to, like, people who are going to, like, veterinary school and are looking to just kind of, like, puff up their resumes. Like, I spent some time volunteering at the Pound. But yeah, it's never, like, called out specifically, but, like, you get the idea that, like, he can stay there provided he cares for the animals, while he is there.
The fact that they didn't spend a lot more time explaining it, I feel like suggests this might actually be, like, a common thing in big cities, New York, that kind of thing. Like, it might be that just quite simply, I've got an extra room, and it doesn't matter if I'm, like, a vet or a mortician or a grocery store. Like, I can legally rent out that room and, like, get an extra little bit of money.
Right. Yeah. So he's living at the vet, caring for the animals. He meets Dora in class. There's a funny bit where he's, like, falling down the stairs when he, like, first enters that class, and the teacher, Greg Kinnear, what's his character's name?
Professor Alcott.
Alcott, yeah. Douchebag. Publicly humiliates him when he falls down the stairs, but the girl he sits next to, Dora, seems to actually care that he fell and hurt himself. And that's, like, the beginning of his, like, little weird... It's almost, like, obsessive in the beginning, because everyone to this point has just treated him like shit. And she's the first person that actually cares about his well-being.
Well, she did do that nice sort of, like, introduction. Hola, soy Dora.
Right.
Can you say biblioteca? And you were kind of like, okay, well, libraries are good. We've already established that earlier in this episode.
Well, and when people are trying to steal his stuff, she goes, you've got to say swiper, no swiping.
The whole class joined in.
Yep.
Swiper, no swiping. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
Some of that's true.
Yeah, but there, like you said, she was the first person to do anything nice. And that is not only illustrated by his relationship with the really shitty roommates he had, but also there was like a genuine montage of people just treating him like shit and ignoring him and snubbing him and doing like it's actually kind of hard to watch, to be honest.
He's like trying to introduce himself and people just walk away and he's like,
really
oh,
upsetting.
Hey, we're in the same class. And the guy's like, and then just gets up and like moves. Mm-hmm. So yeah, everyone's been really cold and standoffish and just downright shitty. So the first person that's nice to him, of course he's going to latch on. Mm-hmm. The fact that she happens to be a super hot girl, I'm sure had no bearing on his decision.
I don't think that factored in at all.
No. Unrelated.
So he sees her in the wild, as one does. Mm-hmm. And after he had that experience with her in the classroom, he noticed that she had Everclear stickers all over her binder, because, you know, this was in the year 2000, probably shot in 98, 99. Binders were a thing.
Yep.
And he decides he's going to purchase some Everclear tickets and try to casually invite her to go.
I would have gone if he'd asked me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
One thing that I think it's important to slide in there, though, before we jump into that bit, and I forget how the story kind of plays it out, but we're made aware that Dora is in a relationship with that professor.
Yeah, they sort of cut away to it really fast. Like, he chastises her in the classroom, and then it cuts to a scene of her in his apartment, and him basically saying, hey, you know, this is a secret for a reason, and she's like, I don't understand why we have to be, you know, shameful about it. And so that's when you're like, oh, he's dating a student.
Because I think that, does he know this when he invites her to the Everclear concert, or
no?
But we know this.
But we know this, correct? Yeah, you're correct. So he invites her to the Everclear concert. She says she's got some interviews to do. One of the issues that they're both struggling with pretty consistently throughout this movie is a lack of funds. So he is on a very tight scholarship. I don't think his parents don't have a lot of money, so he's doing it all by himself.
And she's working for tips at a strip club and just not getting it.
Yeah, she's working as like a serving girl at a strip club across town and just cannot make enough to support herself, to get a place, get tuition, all that stuff.
And she's got to leave early because she's got to take the 6 train back to her mom's house.
Yes.
11:50.
At 11:50, which in strip club time, that's like...
Too early.
That's right when the money is walking in the door.
Yeah, that is... you don't shut down at 11:50.
No.
So yeah, he invites her to this concert. She is going on several job interviews and tells him, well, maybe I'll just meet you there. And in the meantime, the shitty roommates reappeared and pretended that it was all part of this grand plan that they kicked him out of the dorm. Basically, somebody in the dorm OD'd, and so they were checking bags on the way in so they could no longer party in the dorm. Well, now Paul is outside of the dorm in this vet clinic, and they were like, well, hey, we can just pretend that we had a plan all along and use him for a place to party. And so they do that, and he falls for it again because he's starting to catch on, and he agrees, I think, because he wants to believe.
He's small town naive, but he has been burned enough times to know that these guys are up to no good, so he's kind of sort of like giving them one last shot.
But unfortunately, it's the same night as the concert, so he's not actually physically present to monitor how out of control the party gets. And Dora, Mena Suvari's character, meets one of the shitty roommates at a liquor store. He brings her back there. One of the shitty roommates, slips her a roofie, and she, almost ODs. Jason Biggs' character, Paul, spends the entire concert alone, which is super depressing.
And gets beer spilled on him, and, gets bumped around by the people jumping through the music and stuff.
I mean, he was hoping to get bumped around.
Yeah, just not by some sweaty guy.
Sweaty guy.
Yeah. I mean, probably best case scenario, she ended up just kind of camping out at the toilet at the vet, given the people that she was around at that time. So, like you said,
was the best case scenario of a worst case scenario.
Yep. She got roofied and basically was
forgotten.
Experiencing an OD, and everyone was like, well, she can't move, so...
The party just, left.
Yep.
And she was just, passed out by the toilet. He came home, found her there. Was obviously super disappointed initially. He's like, oh, my date, who was supposed to meet me at the concert, is at my apartment, passed out, presumably drunk.
In my bathroom.
And she was not waking up, so he took her to the hospital.
Yep.
And that's when we discover, I should say, that's when Paul discovers that she's in a relationship with Professor Alcott, because after the doctor comes out, he says, well, are you family? Are you, what, how do you know her? And he's like, I just found her. And he says, well, her emergency contact, Professor Alcott, says he doesn't know her, so we need need to know what to do with her. And he's like, well, that's okay. I'll take her back to my place. She's my girlfriend. And he's like, I thought you said you just found her. And he goes, yeah, well, I did.
And boy, was I mad.
And boy, was I mad. And then the doctor was like, all right, whatever. And gives him the pills that she's supposed to take, gives him the discharge paperwork, and says, have a good one.
Hashtag city hospitals.
Yeah. Too busy to care.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't deal with this. I have a gunshot victim. I'm going to discharge this extremely vulnerable and unconscious young woman into the care of somebody who is clearly not a family member or close relation.
This barely legal college co-ed who has very clearly been taken advantage of, manipulated, and possibly worse, into the care of some also barely legal co-ed with no moral standing to be established.
A known unknown.
Yeah.
Okay, so he ends up taking her back to his place, sets her up in his closet room.
In his kennel.
Yep. That's what it was.
How long are they there? They mentioned it's like a stretch of time.
Several days, because she wakes up and she says, oh my gosh, how long have I been asleep? He says, oh, only since Friday.
Yeah, and he says, are you hungry? I'm hungry. I just ate this morning. You haven't eaten in days.
So
Right.
presumably it's either Sunday or Monday, and she's missed the entire weekend.
Right. But that's kind of like the beginning of their relationship. I think that
Yeah.
she was interested in the concert. He accepted it because she likes Everclear. But this is the first time that she's like noticing that he actually cares about her.
And he's like a nice guy.
And that's the common thing, too, is because this is also, I wouldn't say the first time, but it's the first time on screen that she has experienced genuine human kindness with no ulterior motive.
Yeah.
Because her boyfriend treats her like shit, her boss treats her like shit, her boss fired her because she wasn't making enough money for the club, and her mom doesn't seem to care a whole lot.
I would push back there. I think her mom does care. She keeps her mom in the dark so her mom doesn't remove her from school. Or
Like her mom
or
cares so much
goes
that
into
she...
bankruptcy to help her.
Okay,
She does say she wants to buy her mom a dishwasher, which means her mom doesn't have a whole lot of money.
Right.
But she's clearly trying to, like, tone down her mom's anxiety.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't want her spending her money because she, like, she, like, made up that whole thing about sleeping in the girls' dorm when she actually was sleeping in Grand Central.
Earlier in the movie, there's a short scene where she misses the last train and she sleeps in Grand Central, but she calls her mom so her mom doesn't worry. And she hires a homeless person to play, the doorman for the girls' dorm. But yeah, so I see what you're saying. Her mom cares so much that it would be...
She cuts her out of her life.
Yeah.
And her mom would potentially hurt herself if she knew what dire straits her daughter was in, right? Mom doesn't have two pennies to rub together. If I tell her I missed the last train, she'll probably call me a taxi, and my mom will fork over $55 that she doesn't have.
Or worse, she'll borrow a car from somebody to come get me herself.
Right.
Yeah. But either way, she's kind of estranged, through her own... just through life circumstance. So, let's see. Where are we at now?
Well, she's passed out in his bed. She wakes up, and like you said, this is sort of the beginning of their relationship.
Yeah.
They're talking and flirting. He's flirting. And he does at that point go and talk to Professor Alcott and kind of confronts him about this. The shitty roommates get wind that she's in there and that Professor Alcott was on her emergency contact list, and they put two and two together, which Paul is too naive to do. They go and leverage that information into A's in this European literature class. And Paul goes and confronts him. What the professor presumes is yet another shakedown is actually Paul expressing concern, and then in a sort of sweet but also naive gesture, keeps up the charade that Professor Alcott really cares about her and brings her flowers, with his name on them and stuff like that.
That he forged.
Yeah. Not the brightest move on Paul's part, but again, it's trying to illustrate that he's the nice guy. He cares more about her feelings than he does about making a move.
Yeah, and at this point, he doesn't seem to realize that Alcott is a piece of shit. I think he's, getting the evidence, but he hasn't, really put it together yet that, Alcott is toxic for Dora.
It's like the X-Files. He wants to believe that Alcott's a good person.
He's
despite all evidence to the contrary.
I was going to say, he's collecting a mountain of evidence to the contrary, but still in his heart of hearts is like, no, this has got to be a coincidence. This has got to be... an isolated incident. He can't be like this all the time. There's a reason that she's with him.
Yeah. So she stays with him the next couple of days, and he kind of takes care of her. And
totally platonic way.
Yes.
Yeah. No, they just have like a good time together. So I'm going to take a little aside here and go back to our earlier conversation about rom-coms.
Yes.
So the reason I would say this is a classic rom-com is the classic rom-com is couple gets together, they have happy times, there is a break, and then a reconnection. Is like the standard sort of formula of rom-com. I think the two things that would subjectively make this feel like not a rom-com is the two of them don't get romantically together prior to the break, which feels foreign to people watching expecting a rom-com. The other thing is typically the formula is reversed. It's usually the guy that fucks up and estranges the relationship and then has to like win back the girl. Mm-hmm. In this scenario, I would say the girl fucks up a little bit more, even though she was like, definitely manipulated and abused.
Her character is innocent the whole time.
Is innocent, but at the same time, she's less naive than Paul.
Right.
He is cast as the babe in the woods. She is the sort of like gritty person who has her wits about her and should know better kind of thing. And she has to sort of win him back in the end. I'm going to read this and then I might cut it out later, but it reminds me a little bit of the girl with glasses trope.
Oh, I think I know, yeah.
So she's not, in this scenario was a little confusing to like the modern viewer is she's not the girl with glasses, he's the girl with glasses. Mm-hmm. He is the like babe in the woods who is actually, I mean, Jason Biggs, especially at this point, he's a very attractive guy in my opinion, especially by 90s standards. Mm-hmm. And, just because he's got like slightly greasy hair and like a little bit of a weird haircut. He was
right up there with Freddie Prinze Jr.
He's kind of in that ballpark and he wears a funny hat and then suddenly he doesn't wear a funny hat anymore and he's like suddenly attractive, right? Yeah. That's the girl with glasses trope. And I'm just going to read this. This is Isaac Asimov talking about the girl with glasses trope from 1955. I did not realize this trope is quite so old. The cliche to which I refer is one whereby it is assumed that a superbly beautiful actress, whom we shall call Laura Lovely, is ugly provided that she is wearing glasses. This has happened over and over again. Laura Lovely is a librarian or a school teacher, the two feminine occupations, can't say I'm doing air quotes, that by Hollywood convention guarantee spinsterhood and unhappiness. And naturally she wears big tortoiseshell glasses, the most intellectual type, to indicate that fact. Now, to any functional male in the audience, the sight of Laura Lovely in glasses evokes a reaction in no way different than the sight of her without glasses. Yet, to the distorted view of the actor playing the hero of the film, Laura Lovely with glasses on is plain. At some point in the picture, a kindly female friend of Laura, who knows the facts of life, removes her glasses. It turns out suddenly that she can see perfectly well without them, and our hero falls passionately in love with the now beautiful Laura, and there is a perfectly glorious finale. If there is a person alive so obtuse as to not see that A, the presence of glasses in no way ruined Laura's looks, and that our hero must be completely aware of that, and B, that if Laura were wearing glasses for any sensible reason, removing them would cause her to kiss the wrong male, since she would probably be unable to tell one face from another without them. No. The glasses are not literally glasses, they are merely a symbol of intelligence. The audience is taught two things. A, evidence of extensive education is a social hindrance and causes unhappiness. And B, formal education is unnecessary. So, I don't know if I'll cut that out because it's kind of wordy, but that was Isaac Asimov's take on the girl with glasses trope.
I've always loved that man, but I just gained so much more respect for him for that.
I know, right? That is such an unbelievably common trope. I'm going to keep using the same word over and over, trope. But I think this movie's kind of unique in that it flips it on its ear, and he is now the girl with glasses.
One of the principal examples of girl with glasses trope that comes to mind is Princess Diaries.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were going to say She's All That, which is like in my opinion, like the classiest classic.
Yeah.
Classicist? Classicist.
There's also Not Another Teen Movie, which
pokes fun at that so well.
And it's so perfect.
Oh, she's got paint on her overalls.
Oh. One thing that I did appreciate about this, though, is that he didn't really go through like a transformation. Like
he kind of did.
He cut his hair.
He got better clothes, and he got a new hat.
Sure. But, like,
That's the same as taking off glasses.
Those are his glasses.
Those are his glasses.
But his character stayed the same.
So did hers.
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
The girl with glasses never changed except for her glasses.
Did she ever wear glasses?
Well, but that's the thing.
No, he's saying in other movies.
Dora doesn't wear glasses, but Anne Hathaway did. Her character never changed.
That's fair. I don't know. Okay, I take your point.
That's the thing, is your insides need to remain the same.
Yes.
You just need to become the beautiful swan from the ugly duckling, and you do that by removing glasses.
Clark Kent syndrome.
Or in his case, cutting your hair, getting a new hat, and changing your clothes.
Yes.
I think the reason why I had pushed back on the rom-com is that a lot of times when I think of rom-com, I think of something that is, wholesome is probably the wrong word, but like, I don't think of it as being as like, raunchy is probably the wrong word too, but like, the three roommates in this movie, like, it wasn't cutesy, like, they were gross, they were predators, you know? And so that element, I think, was what kind of like sidelined me a little bit. But I mean, you're right, all the anatomy is there.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's definitely, I think, elements that are different, but the bones are strictly rom-com.
Yeah.
And again, a subjective view, you might be like, I don't know. But then you look at it, you're like, oh, yeah, no. Yeah.
And that's the thing is, like, while I was watching it, it didn't feel like I was watching Fools Rush In. It didn't feel like I was watching Serendipity. I called that one out earlier. But it shares all of the same genetic markers of a rom-com.
Yeah. One thing that deviated slightly is that her original sin was not truly a sin unto itself.
Right.
And that is something that is typically a little bit different. Usually, let's take She's All That, right? His original sin is he got involved with her because of a bet. 10 Things I Hate About You. He got involved with her because somebody paid him to, right? Like, there was a reason why somebody discovers something later on that then, nukes the relationship and then they have to repair it.
There was no nuking.
Well, she did nuke the relationship, but it wasn't for, like, a mean-spirited or poor decision. It wasn't a true sin. She was just making really poor life choices. But they were for her life. It wasn't like she fucked up their relationship with a choice that affected their relationship. She was kind of fucking up her own life, and he was just sort of sidelined being like, oh, that's not good.
She was naive, and it played on a different rom-com trope, like the toxic other guy trope.
Yes.
Where you spend half the movie like hating on Greg Kinnear because he's just a piece of shit, and you can see that he's manipulating her. That is also, I think, a common trope, where you hate the other guy.
I also think they did a great job with his sort of arc in that, like, maybe you guys feel differently. I felt like he was prickly, but actually a little charming in the beginning. And then his traits throughout the movie got more and more, like, aggressive and toxic and biting. And, like, I just don't feel like the volume of, like, really venomous comments and interactions involving him were equally distributed throughout the movie. And I really appreciated that because it made me, as the viewer, kind of be like, oh, he's kind of a charming guy. He's witty. He makes funny little comments. And then they're like, oh, no, those comments are like, okay, they're actually a little bit mean.
And so,
wow, they're getting meaner. and then it's just like abuse.
I'm so glad you brought that up, too, because at this time, Dora has been in a relationship with Alcott for an undetermined amount of time. And he refuses to call it a relationship. She's like, haha, okay. So then she starts spending time with Paul, a genuinely nice human being that cares for her well-being, that does things for her out of the kindness of his own heart without any expectation for recompense. So she's experiencing human kindness and subconsciously comparing it to the way she's treated. Starts to notice the red flags start to pile up.
Yeah. I like how he called out the red flags in the beginning, where he's like, oh, he says this, but then he says he doesn't want to be in a relationship. It's like, oh yeah, it's fine. And then like she says more, and he's like, but he says he doesn't want to be in a relationship.
And then she's like, yeah, and he goes, okay. And just kind of leaves it there. But she can't make the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
She couldn't see the red flags because all she saw was her ticket to happiness.
It's funny, to your point, too, he doesn't explicitly say he's treating you this way, he's an asshole. You're right. She recognizes the red flags in response to being treated, like, well by Paul. So it's just simply, by circumstances, she identifies how abusive the relationship she's in is.
She just experiences the human kindness that he's showing and notices the red flags.
The idea is that when you first meet Greg Kinnear's character, you don't put it all together.
And that was what I was getting at too, was when you first meet Greg Kinnear, yeah, he's charming. He's also a little smarmy. He's sarcastic, kind of an ass, but like in a funny way that's excusable.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize that that's not a performance. Yeah. That's how he treats people.
Well, because he starts off by, like, berating his class for not reading books. You know,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, you know what? He's
And he
a
makes
guy.
a joke out of it.
Cool, kind of edgy professor.
Yeah, and they all laugh, so you know it happens all the time.
Yeah.
But then he treats the people in his private and personal relationships the exact same way. So you realize it's not a bit. He's just an ass. And then it goes even further because, he's not just an ass. He's a narcissist.
Okay, so where we're at in the story, she is living with Paul for a couple of days, and in the meantime, Alcott has agreed to give all of the guys A's.
He's been blackmailed into it.
Yeah, in exchange for not going to the dean with the information that they have. Professor Alcott shows up, she goes with him, then she gets wind that Paul was in on the exchange of goods, let's say, which was not true, and she kind of loses a little bit of respect for him, and she gets treated worse and worse by Alcott, starts rethinking some of her decisions, but doesn't want to go back to Paul, even though they were never truly together, because she thought he was in on it. And then Greg Kinnear unwittingly lets it slip that, he was actually never in on it, and he actually took the moral high ground and refused to take a given grade. And she was like, that's my guy. And so she goes back and has to win him back and say, I'm sorry for my poor life decisions.
Yep.
Yeah.
She brings him pizza and a movie.
Well, yeah, because there was like a scene, it's like a circle around. This did kind of happen in quick succession, but like as Paul is becoming more and more enamored, she like agrees to stay the night with him so they can Netflix and chill, basically.
The late 90s, 2000s equivalent of...
Yeah.
I don't know if you're using that correctly, but...
Well, I mean...
I only say that in that, like, I feel like Netflix and chill missed us by, like, 5-10 years.
It's the literal translation.
No, but I thought like Netflix... Yes, it's the literal translation, but I think there's a connotation that,
It
like...
is not the societal implication.
We're definitely gonna fuck. And I feel like, that might be what he's hoping for, but I feel like this is a little bit less of a done deal, where it's like, if somebody's like, hey, come over, Netflix and chill, I feel like the implication is like, we gon' frick.
Yep.
Yeah, see, that totally missed me.
I know that because of memes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was... no. I think
it started off as Netflix and people were like, every time you say Netflix and chill, we're boning. Like, that's just what it's going to mean now.
Yeah. And I
could be way off on this. I don't know.
I think you're right.
I'm not plugged into society.
I was well and
That's how they get you.
Of the three of us, I was married the most recently, and I was well and truly married by the time Netflix and chill became lexicon for... I missed that boat, and I'm not sad about it.
I guess more like a blockbuster and bust. I don't know. But anyway, he's like, I'm gonna go get a movie and a pizza. So he brings back a movie, a pizza, and some flowers. And
And
like,
a 6-pack of Mountain Dew.
oh, he is hammed, ready to go. And he walks in, and boop, there's
Professor Alcott.
And that's when she like kind of leaves Paul for him in a more physical sense. But anyway, going back to what started that, when she's trying to win him back, she gets the pizza, she gets the movie.
She
And-
skipped the Mountain Dew, though.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Bitch.
Yeah.
And I said, bitch. We've done that before, too.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that we're not going to have to play Key and Peele royalties at any point. But
I love Key and Peele.
they are so funny.
Okay, but does he go for it right then and there? I think he...
Hook, line, and sinker.
He almost does. So he's like, all right, you can't just come in here and say these things.
Looking all cute
and not mean it. And she's just kind of looking at him being coy and like,
Oh my god, it's so hot.
it
so
threw me.
she's so... God, she's so
I was
hot.
like, you can't look at me that way. That's
You're not
fair.
allowed to be that hot.
No,
That's not fair.
Nope, you can't just do that. So she sets the pizza down and she looks at him and she's got like this wry smile on her face and she just walks up real close and he's still on his little soapbox saying his words.
He's being pretty damn cute too.
It's true.
It's just the two of them.
And
like, just fuck you guys
and
for being
so
that
she
cute.
just leans in and gives him this quick little peck and he goes, "The hell was that?" She goes, "A kiss?" He goes, "You call that a kiss?"
And then he took her to Bone Town.
Yeah, he did.
Sexual relations is what I'm referring to, guys.
That he did not have with that woman.
He
And
did
then
not-
fucking roll
not have
credits.
them.
Like, it's that scene and then it's done.
Basically. Which is like, that's the way to end it, right? Like,
no, it was perfect.
like
Honestly,
she
it was
fucking
perfect.
like left Alcott high and dry, went back to Paul and was like, hey, I'm sorry I was a dum-dum and didn't realize that, like, use a catch.
She never, like, even breaks it off with Alcott outside of, like, their...
What is there to break off? They don't have a relationship.
Boom.
Boom. Logic.
So, I know we have, like, a whole
Lawyered.
section for things that we don't like, but I think it's topical. Did you guys feel like his comment, like, oh, you call that a kiss, was out of character? Because up until that point, everything that he did was goofy. It was like, I don't know what I'm doing. He's stumbling through it. He's always this way.
It was out of character, but it's a demonstration of the growth that his character has seen. He's no longer girl with glasses. He's now girl without glasses. I'm sexy and smoldering, and I'm not wearing glasses, and guess what? You're going to kiss right up on my face.
Yep. You're going to put your mouth hole on my mouth hole.
We are going to make one connected tube from butthole to butthole.
Boom.
Ooh, with, like, PVC or...
No, when you kiss, that's what happens.
Yeah.
You make one tube that starts with a butthole and ends in a butthole.
I've never really thought about it like that, but I think that's
Next time
correct.
you kiss
You were
Well, I
talking
think
about
about it.
ass to ass with a PVC pipe? That's technically that's a mouth to mouth
Well, it's
tube.
more direct.
No, is it?
right?
Yeah, no, I
It's
mean,
the same
know,
distance.
if the goal is to get butt stuff into butt stuff, it's more direct. But technically, that would be a mouth to mouth tube.
I've never really thought about that. So you
Which
make
is
a
funny
human
because
straw.
by giving mouth to mouth, you are connecting a butt to butt tube,
Technically,
and by connecting butt to butt, you are building a mouth to mouth.
what we really need is a flexible tube that can go in the butts while you're kissing, and then you form a
It becomes a
continuous
circulatory
circle,
system.
right?
Circle of
and
life.
It's circle of life. That's
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically a big wedding ring.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
Okay. It's a symbol of commitment.
PVC U bend. You both sit on it and make out.
I like it. I don't actually.
This
I
is
don't
love,
like it.
guys.
I don't like it
We're
at all.
describing love.
Anyway, I take your point, and yes, that is like the technical side of what happened there. But like, I personally felt like it was too fast.
I would say... See, this is the problem, because I agree with both of you, but I can't agree with both of you.
You can agree with me.
I would say that it was a sudden change of character, and if we had had 10 more minutes in the film, they probably could have built it very easily to be believable. But we didn't necessarily need it because it wrapped nicely.
Hang on. I'm rethinking my statement, and I'm gonna retract the decibel level of what I had said. We did have that scene where he like called out one of the jerks, punches him in the face. So I guess we did have a couple of scenes where like
He did also basically tell Alcott to fuck off.
okay, you know what? Maybe it does fit better than I felt like it did.
Now, but I agree in the sense that it was a sudden change of character as a result of taking off the glasses.
Right.
So we're just gonna totally abandon the butt to butt PVC thing.
No,
For now,
no,
we're going to
it's
put
not
it on the
abandoned.
back burner.
The butt burner.
The butt burner.
Got it. Okay.
The
Okay.
butt-
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we're not leaving that one. lay.
It's on the Butson burner.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You put it in the attic, you're not throwing it away.
So if we had another 10
Actually, you
minutes
put
in
it
this
in
movie,
the basement. That's where it goes.
if we had another 10 minutes in this movie, like you suggested,
Reconnect.
we would have a full connection.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, for the PG-13 rating, perhaps it's good that we didn't have another 10 minutes. For my own satisfaction, perhaps we should have done 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
that's-
Anything else we didn't like? I think we're going to reverse it. What do you
Okay.
think? You
Yeah.
just stick with the didn't like, and then we'll go back to like, because I got a lot of likes.
I'm going to say it, and y'all are going to fight me.
Oh, God. He doesn't like the cinematography.
It wasn't that this time, I promise.
There were no sweeping vistas.
We're going to save that for what I did like, because I have thoughts. Fuck you, man.
Look, you fuck Kermit. He was the one making fun of you there.
God damn it. No, what I didn't like was the rampant use of Rohypnol, or roofies, despite the fact that it was topical and relevant. And it was one of those, if this movie were made today,
I don't think it could be.
What? Seriously?
Yeah.
that particular part of the plot would ultimately have to be changed to something else.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
They're the bad guys.
Agreed.
Like, you can't be like, I liked Schindler's List, but did there have to be so much Jew killing? And it's like
different.
It's like,
this is different.
Yeah, does. They're the villains. Like, they're the bad guys.
So look at the last 5 years in Hollywood. There are dozens of names of actors abusing women, specifically by drugging them. So if this movie were to be made today, given light of what's been happening in the last couple years of Hollywood, it would not be well received.
But, like,
it would reflect
what
truth.
would you call, like, would you call Bill Cosby a good guy or a bad guy?
No, I think the difference...
A bad guy, right? Like, he's the bad guy.
Right, but...
The guys in this who were doing, like, the roofying were not the good guys.
Oh, that's
it
not
was.
being
It was, in fact,
disputed.
used to demonstrate how bad they actually were.
Right, and I think that the nuance here, at least for me, and it sounds like maybe for you, Jackson, too, is that they were comedic bad guys. In that, like, they were used as punchlines, and not everything that they said was evil. Like, they were these guys are shitheads. Kind of like, these are not guys you want to be. But I feel like the use of roofying somebody is seen as, like, just straight up rape. Like, I don't feel like rapey is something that is, like, used to describe characters nowadays. I think that you go full, this person's a fucking rapist. And there's no comedy to that anymore.
Well, and even if you think about the context of the word, even the lexicon has changed. Because at the time that this movie came out in 2000, it was referred to as the date rape drug. Date rape is not a thing. That when the raping starts, the date is over.
Wow. Jackson is standing by that point. When the raping starts, the date is over.
I mean, I can endorse that.
I would agree with that statement.
So it's not a date rape drug. It's just a rape drug.
But I think, to push back on your point, Mark, while I do think these characters were supposed to be kind of, just, they were chodes. They were just like, real fucking shitty, bro-y guys. I do think this movie stepped it up nicely to illustrate that point. To illustrate the severity. I don't think, like, the bad guys in She's All That, right? Or the bad guys in, I don't know, fucking 10 Things I Hate About You, whatever.
Yeah.
Pick your, like, 90s teen rom-com. I don't think that those bad guys were cast as villainous, as wicked. I think these guys were genuinely, while they were punchlines, I agree with you, I think they were genuinely, like, cast and depicted as more evil and aggressive characters than are otherwise depicted in similar rom-coms of the time. And I think that is the reason I would say this stands the test of time. I don't think the movie was making light of, the use of roofies or date rape or anything like that.
And it wasn't played to comedic effect either.
No, he was really fucking serious about it. He punched a guy out, because of it. It was a very serious topic in this movie, and it was used to cast those characters as the villains that they were.
And I agree that it was used in a way that portrayed the villains as villains. My only thing is, there were about 50 different mechanisms that could have been used to portray the same result. And the result did not match up with the crime. Because, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I found out that students in my university were distributing Rohypnol at parties to get with girls, they would immediately be kicked out of my university. Now, in this movie, the dean doesn't find out, blah, blah, blah.
But I do like the text at the end. They got what they,
Yeah.
They all got what they deserved.
The text at the end, everybody gets hosed except for our two protagonists. But I don't know. I feel like they dialed it up to 11 with the Rohypnol and then just kind of left it there.
And okay, so maybe for me, it's such an egregious thing that it almost takes me out of the rom-com because I'm not having a good time when we're discussing or dealing with that subject. I do agree that, like, contextually, it fits the time, it fits the setting.
And the culture.
But it is so upsetting to me that I can't have a good time with a movie with that subject in the same way that, like, I have a very difficult time, and this is for very different reasons. A Clockwork Orange, for example, uses rape as an element in the movie. Again, contextually, it fits the narrative. I'm not shitting on that. But, like, I don't want to go back and rewatch that movie, even though I think that it is a well-made movie, just because I don't like those elements so much that I don't really want to go there. I'm agreeing with all of your points, and what I'm stating is quite subjective.
But I feel like, yes, I think we could quibble about the severity of what they chose to villainize those characters. Mm-hmm. However, I do feel like there's an element of, like, well, you know, I don't think Braveheart is a good movie because I don't like blood. And it's like, well, nobody likes blood. That's kind of the point, is, like, battle is horrible. It's not supposed to be fun to see somebody get their head chopped off, you know? Like, it's not fun to see, you know, like in Braveheart, right? A bride gets taken away on her wedding night, you know, and it's like, that's kind of the point, is you're not supposed to like it. It's supposed to be bad. These are the bad guys.
The same reason that I had a very negative experience with Brawl in Cell Block 99.
Right. It's like, that's kind of the point. It's like,
it was just
bad
deeply personal to me that I had a visceral reaction to it.
Bad things,
I don't really want to revisit that.
Bad things exist in the world oftentimes due to bad people doing bad things. And the presence of those things in movies doesn't make them bad movies. It makes them a movie that is using a bad element in the real world as a way to show that a character is demented, is villainous, is aggressive, or holds certain character traits that are not to be lauded, but to set their place in the narrative.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I didn't like. And that's why I can't eat pizza.
And that's why I can't eat any pizza. Yeah. What did we like about this movie?
I enjoyed a lot of elements of this movie. I think the thing that I enjoyed the most was the fucking soundtrack.
Oh my god, dude! I was quietly singing along with every song.
Amazing. Soundtrack's so good.
Every song, even if it's like the main song of a scene, or if it's just a background song, like it was amazing.
The soundtrack's amazing.
Dude, it was so good. All of those songs are in my regular rotation on Spotify.
I really enjoyed the simplicity of it, in that, like, I keep defeating my points that I didn't feel like this was a rom-com. I knew the beats of the movie, you know, within the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And there was that comfort that you get with a rom-com. So, whatever, fuck, it's a rom-com.
Welcome to our side.
Yeah, that's something that I really enjoyed.
One thing that I enjoyed was the cinematography.
You know, that scene with Alcott and Dora when they're in the store.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure I'm like overthinking this. But like,
no, it's exactly what you're going to say.
It's exactly what you're going to say, yeah.
He moves the mirror, you know, like, it's like his attention.
Like a triptych mirror.
Like, he doesn't care about who she is.
Nope, he moves the mirror to get a better look at himself.
Yeah, and then when he moves it back, she's no longer in frame, and he doesn't even notice.
Yep.
It's really clever.
That was stellar. That was the 10 out of 10 of the shots that I enjoyed in this movie, because at the beginning of this scene, he's having a conversation with her, and she is solely a reflection in the mirror. So he's having a conversation with her, and you see her in the mirror. He turns the mirror to get a better look at himself, and he puts the mirror back, and she's gone. And like you said, he didn't notice. There were several shots that I greatly enjoyed, and one of them in particular they used several times, which was the shot of the outside of, for lack of a better term, his apartment, which was the veterinary clinic. When you first see the shot, it is this basement, right? It is just a New York City basement where he lives.
In New York.
Yes.
Less common in Omaha.
Yeah, you wouldn't see a New York City basement in Omaha, Nebraska.
Not so much.
No. So in the second shot, it's the exact same camera angle, but with Christmas lights up. And then the third shot, the exact same camera angle, same Christmas lights, bunch of empty beer bottles. And then the last time is the exact same camera shot, but with different decorations. And I loved that they just kept reusing that exact same angle and that exact same shot to let you know that time had passed. Another shot that I greatly enjoyed was in Professor Alcott's classroom during the lecture when we first see Jason Biggs absolutely eat shit on the steps. It is from Alcott's perspective. So he's standing in front of his table, addressing his classroom, and you see the entire classroom, and then you see Paul just biff it on the steps. And you get to watch him go like 3/4 of the way down the staircase, and then he just pops up. But were there a lot of clever creative shots? No. Were there...
No.
Were there a bunch of...
You just listed some creative shots.
Yeah,
Okay, a couple of creative shots.
But not a few.
Not a bunch.
not quite enough to be a few.
Not a bunch. There were
I did
a few,
like that
not
there
a bunch.
One thing that I had never noticed before that Mark actually noticed was that in one of the montage sequences, at one point, Paul has the hat with flaps.
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm talking about. Those of you in the Midwest know what I'm talking
Yes.
about, right? If you're a Canadian listener, you know what I'm talking about. The hat with flaps. I've got one. We've all got one. He's got one of those on perpetually. And at one point, again, in the vein of him taking off his proverbial glasses, he gets a new hat from Lost and Found with Dora. And then he says, oh, should I leave this old one here? And she goes, no, leave it in the park for a homeless person. Well, during a montage later in the film, a homeless person comes up to him and does something, says something, and...
Is wearing his hat.
Is wearing his flappy hat. It is a delightful scene that I totally missed in the dozens of times I've seen this movie.
But that's something. The cinematography basically checked all my boxes at least once. I got my scenic overlooks, especially of Central Park and the big arch there. I got my Sorkin Speak walk and talks. I got my forced perspective, and I got my creative camera angles. So I'm happy.
All right.
Jackson's got boxes. He's coming with boxes, Mark.
And these boxes done got checked.
Yeah.
These boxes were made for walking, and that's just what they'll do.
Walking, talking.
But one of these days,
These boxes are gonna...
I get broken down and thrown in the waste.
Recycling, probably.
Or in my case, they'll get emptied, folded up, and stacked in my basement for further use.
Well, yeah, if you're going to move later, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's what walking boxes are for.
They're good boxes. You can't just throw them out.
They're good boxes, Bront.
What else we like about this?
I already mentioned this, but I love the writing and directing. It was so seamless. It was very clear that the person who wrote this movie had a vision of how it was going to look on screen. And because that person just happened to also be the director, she was able to make it as such. I don't know, this movie felt very tight to me.
She had full creative control over the entire project from start to finish.
The movie felt very, very tight. Maybe in light of recent discussions, I don't know if I should mention this, but like, my thought is that this movie is perfectly charming. It's a very charming movie.
Honestly, if you look at it from a casual perspective, if the casual observer is watching this movie, they're going to have a really good time. It's a romp. It's very fun. And you're right, it's charming. If you're looking at it through a critical lens like we do, you're going to find things to nitpick. You're going to find things that are inconsistent. You're going to find things that are offensive.
Speaking of inconsistencies, one of the things that I did not like that I forgot to mention was, like, this is the longest semester in the history of college.
Yes! Oh my god!
Fuck! So, when he came into Alcott's class, and he fell down the stairs and all that shit, presumably that was his first day of class.
Yeah.
But later, she mentions that they've been together all semester, which suggests that perhaps that wasn't his first day of class, and that was just the first day he ended up next to her. Meanwhile, I mean, things are happening, and they're referencing things that seem like they've taken weeks, but maybe they've taken days, and it is such a fucking long time.
Yeah.
I cannot believe how much gets crammed into this fucking semester. Also, kind of in that vein, not something I disliked, but something that stuck out to me as a person who first watched this movie in 2000 when it came out. This movie stressed me out so much when it came to undergrad.
Oh.
I thought college was going to be fucking hell. I was like, how am I ever going to be able to stay up until 4 a.m. every day studying, only to get up at 6 for classes?
Yeah.
And I had this very, very stressful and myopic view of university life, largely due to this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else we liked or didn't like?
I pretty much liked all of this movie.
I think I liked all of it.
I really enjoyed like the 90s. Well, last time we talked about how The Last Starfighter had that 80s nostalgia. Mm-hmm. This was squarely 90s.
So 90s.
The clothes, the music, the food, the pop culture references, everything screamed to me about my childhood and like everything that I experienced growing up.
I feel like there's that like sort of, we tend to go 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. I feel like we talk about those things, but when we talk about those things, we have a tendency to talk about the things that were backloaded towards the end of the decade.
Yes.
Like, when we talk about the 80s, we seldom mean 1981.
Right.
Typically, we mean 1984 to 1989. Mm-hmm. Similarly, with the 1990s, we typically mean 1994
like between 95
to 1999.
And
2000. Right. And, you know, people talk, like, the 90s extended maybe into, like, 2005.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, this movie...
The 90s was a very long decade.
It was a long decade. It was, for being 10 years, it was damn near 15 years.
Well, I feel like
this movie just, like, fucking had that 90s vibe, even though it technically came out in 2000.
Well, I would say that the 90s died when the iPhone came out. It was, like, 2007. Like, that's when, like, everything, for me at least, if we're just talking about
Tone
this,
shift.
Honestly, you're right. I never thought about it, though, because, like, when I think 90s, I think MP3 players or Discmans or Walkmans, right? Walkmans were on their way out. Discmans were hot.
But the thing about the Discman, the reason why they could make the Discman a thing was because, you know, it could actually fit in a pair of Jean Co jeans.
Yes.
Or in a pair of Trip pants.
And then the MP3 players, we had the Zunes. We had...
an iPod.
And that was it. The iPod was like the hot thing, and then the iPhone happened, and you're right. That's the day the music died.
I also feel like maybe it was the same day, and I don't know, maybe it was like everybody collectively did this, but like people just stopped wearing silver synthetic clothing.
I didn't.
Just one day they just stopped, and I no longer saw that and like Oakley's Over the Top. Google it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Google Oakley's Over the Top.
I was defiant until like 2010.
So you didn't start wearing silver clothing until 2010.
No. I started wearing silver clothing when everybody else stopped, and I was like, yes, I alone will keep this alive.
I think that's called being a hipster.
You know, I hated that for the longest time, and you know who hates being called hipsters?
Hipsters.
Yeah.
Are you saying you've gone full hipster?
He's so hipster that he
hates that he's a hipster?
Hates that he is a hipster. Whoa, this is getting meta.
That's
which is another thing that hipsters say.
Oh my God.
I have come to embrace it to my reticence and reluctance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We
move into Cody quotes?
Are we ready to move on to quotes?
I am.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I know I have fewer than maybe others. I don't know. All right, this first one, if you guys don't mind me jumping in.
Go for it.
Oh my God. I'm minding.
Oh, all right. Why don't you write a letter about it? I'll probably not read it.
He's going to call me a loser. It never ceases to amaze me.
Random
I
sounds.
believe that was a bonobo.
Nice. Okay, so this is a scene where Paul is getting to know his new roommates, the shitheads, and one of them is trying to help him out. You know, so he walks into the room that Paul's trying to like study in, while everyone else is like throwing back Zabruskis.
Playing some sort of unintelligible drinking game.
Yeah.
My favorite part about that is that when Casanova Frankenstein actually said Zabruskis, he was talking to the gang known as the Frat Boys.
They bring Zabruskis.
Zabruskis.
Oh my God, I just watched that movie. Like,
did you rewatch it?
I brought it to the theater, watched it on the big screen.
See, I just watched the entirety of the Spy Kids franchise the other day.
Okay, so asshole kid number 2.
One. He was definitely number 1.
Walks in, says, "Hey, I gotta tell you something." He like takes a chair and like flips it around and sits in it like a douchebag. Says,
As one does.
As one does.
"I'm gonna tell you something. It's for your own good. Nobody likes you." And he's genuinely there. He's like, he somehow feels like if I tell him that everyone hates him, it's gonna somehow
make him cool.
Yeah.
Make us not like him.
It's gonna open the door to a world of possibility.
It is weird in that, like, he's genuinely trying to help, but he's trying to help in the selfish, scum of the earth kind of way. Mm-hmm. Like,
I'll like
he
you,
does
but not
think
you.
he's helping, but his way of helping is
Don't be who you are.
being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, just be not you. He literally says that. Be not you.
Yep.
And we'll like you.
Yeah. Good.
But until that time, we will not.
Yeah.
I've got another asshole comment. This is from Professor Olcott. And let's see. This is when Dora is now living with or staying with Olcott, and it's like this weird scene where like they're both wearing like these really, I don't know, she's wearing something that's very uncharacteristic, you know, for the entire movie.
Very
was wearing,
matronly.
yeah, she's wearing like blacks and she's wearing heavy eyeliner and like and all this. In this scene, she's wearing something like knitted and it's like light gray and she's not wearing heavy makeup. It was interesting, but she starts asking him questions. I forget what she was talking to him about, but she gets excited about something or whatever.
She gets excited about the fact that she's perfectly happy where she is, just mending an article of clothing. And she's like, isn't this perfectly pleasant? I'm so happy to be here with you. We are having so much fun. What ended up making you change your mind about us being together and living in the same place?
And Olcott responds with, you know, I was just thinking about how beautiful you were when you were silent.
Jesus fucking Christ. That is the most horrific thing.
I think all three of us had a visceral reaction when
I
we
was
first heard
honestly,
that line.
I'd seen this movie so many times that like I was getting like, I was just loving watching their reaction to, again, we talked about how Olcott started off in that sort of like charming in a dickish kind of way.
Yeah.
And then the charming waned and the dickish waxed heavily.
Yeah.
And by the end, he was like full on fucking aggressively manipulative, and this term has a tendency to get thrown around a lot today, but like the term gaslighting, I feel like if you're looking for a genuinely good example, this movie is a great resource to turn to because Greg Kinnear's character is a good example of gaslighting and like emotional manipulation and abuse.
Big time.
Again, people love to sort of throw that around. Like, I saw a meme like the other day that was just like, it is okay for a relationship to just end and for two people to not be compatible. It does not have to be that one was abusing the other or manipulating or gaslighting. People can just go their separate ways and never the twain shall meet. In this particular case, this is a good example of like a situation where it's like, no, this was genuinely abusive and manipulative and
Yeah.
problematic.
Yeah. All right, so what do you guys got?
Well, I had 4 of them. So the 4...
Children?
Yes.
My Lanta.
Yes.
Oh, my Lanta!
I keep them in the basement. And they are the reason that all of my clothes fit.
But each of them have a different basement.
Yes.
You have a 4-story deep
I
basement.
have a 1 basement with 3 sub-basements.
Mark is doing the math on this, and it's not looking good that we'll come to a proof.
I'm trying to think of the mutual. This is totally unrelated. who the mutual person was that used to say that all the time? Was it Caitlin?
What? Oh, my Lanta. Yeah, it was Caitlin. Yes.
So in the very beginning of the movie, he's having a conversation with his dad before he goes off to college and like before he embarks on this big journey, and he's wanting to know how his dad was able to make friends and like talk to people. And he says, "You want to know how to make friends? I learned this in the service. Interested is interesting."
That's such a good line.
And I was like,
it's such
whoa.
like honestly, that's something that like has actually stuck out in my mind, like in, you know, normal everyday conversations. Like, interested is interesting. It was like, yeah, okay.
And this movie came out 23 years ago, and that piece of advice is something that every single person can keep in the back of their mind for their regular use. And be like, yeah, if you want to make a connection with someone, just genuinely listen to what they have to say.
Make eye contact.
Make eye contact. Maybe comment on something, and they will instantly feel a connection. I thought that was profound. And from an actor like Dan Aykroyd, who's renowned for being a goofball, to play this very insightful character.
Very minor character, too.
Yeah, very minor. He
Very minor.
has like 5 lines in the entire movie, but like they're all important. It's one of those he doesn't speak often, but so that when he does, it's very worth listening to.
He was also in the Indiana Jones franchise.
Yes, he was. Another that I had, so asshole number 1, he's in that same scene where he's like, nobody likes you. He says, you know, one thing that you never do, like you never bring a sixer or like anything to contribute. And Paul goes, what's a sixer? Asshole says, a 6-pack? Oh, beer.
Check.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense.
Quote number 3 is from asshole number 3 when they install a security checkpoint at the university to check for drugs and alcohol coming onto the campus. And he says, our parents pay a lot of money for us to enjoy our college experience.
Right after professing that he's going to call his father's lawyer.
Yes.
I'm going to call my father's lawyer. Do you have any idea who my father is? Yuck. My skin crawled just saying that out
loud. My last quote is from Paul when he discovers that the unconscious woman lying face down on the top of the toilet is actually Dora, who he thought had stood him up all night. And he says, all right, Dora, come on, wake up. I don't believe in sleeping together on the first date, especially when you didn't show up for it.
It's very witty.
Okay, so mine are all kind of long quotes today, but they're so fucking good, because, like, one of the things that I think is a strength of this movie... This
was a surprisingly quotable movie.
Quotable, and, like, it's dialogue-based quotes. It's not all quips, right?
No.
Like, a lot of mine are really long, because they're kind of, like, just popping out of the dialogue. Okay, so this first one came from the interaction between Paul, Jason Biggs' character, and David Spade, who was the counter guy at
the clerk at the video store.
At a video rental store. Paul brings up 2 movies and he puts them down, and it's like When Harry Met Sally and The Piano. And I guess I'll give the full thing. He goes, oh, When Harry Met Sally. And he's like, what, not good? And he goes, can you maintain a rod while looking at Billy Crystal? And he's like, no. He's like, don't worry, man, nobody can. And he goes, and The Piano, full frontal on Harvey Keitel there. And he's like, oh, is that bad? And he's like, yeah, that dude's 90% wiener. And he goes, really? And he's like, yeah, even on the small screen, that's going to hurt you. Here's your winner. Simon Burt's. It's about a little goofy kid with problems. Works every time. He goes, really? That works? And he's like, yeah, it works for me.
I wonder how many times that conversation has happened.
So good. You know what? Honestly, I never ended up working at a video rental store, but that was one of my, like, dream jobs. I still fantasize about opening a video rental store. And I used to hang out in Blockbuster so much, and I'm not joking, that every employee knew my name, knew who I was, let me behind the counter, and I would sit there and talk to people, like patrons, about movies and what movies they should rent. I actually, maybe or maybe not, just had a taste of this in the Canton Public Library recently, where an older gentleman who had sort of fallen out from movies for a little while and was less familiar with them was standing there, and I sort of took him through some movies and handed him like half a dozen movies, and I was like, check these out, you'll love them. I guess it's not surprising that, like, 3 dudes who, like, started a movie podcast about what movies you should watch like to do that, but
I honestly
shouldn't surprise you. But
movies come up in almost every conversation that I have with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so good. I love David Spade's recommendation. Perfect. Okay, so this next one comes from an interaction when they were doing Sorkin Speak, walking down the streets of New York. It was Dora and Paul, Mena Suvari and Jason Biggs. And Mena Suvari is giving this sort of bitter rant, and she goes, not having money isn't ennobling. It makes you mean. And he goes, oh yeah, that's why all the really nice people are rich.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. Like, what an amazingly witty response to something that, like, on the surface kind of seems legitimate, right?
You can
like,
see her point.
You can see
her
where
logic.
somebody would get bitter and angry about being poor. People do. Like,
yeah.
But being poor doesn't make you mean in the same way that being rich doesn't make you nice.
Right.
And then, okay, so the next one comes from asshole number 1. He's trying to get Paul to let them party at his new place. And this is when he's basically trying to trick him into thinking that them kicking him out of the dorm was the plan all along in order to do this. He slips his girlfriend's panties into Paul, Jason Biggs' wash, because he's talking to him at an automat. Not an automat.
Laundromat.
A laundromat. Fucking automat. What is this, 1956? And he goes, Paul, are you hitting my bitch? To which Jason Biggs, who has never been confronted this way in his entire life, goes, No, I am not hitting your bitch. I have never hit your bitch, nor would I ever hit your bitch.
You hitting my bitch?
To which the guy busts out laughing and, tells him he's just yanking his chain, taking the piss. Okay, so the last one, Jason Biggs, right before actually he goes to the laundromat at one point, says to Mena Suvari, we can wear my very cool wash day clothes. And he pulls out this pair of pants that has underwear attached and exposed about 6 inches above the waistline. And this is not underwear and pants. This is underwear attached to pants, just as basically like a, what would you call it?
I don't know. It's sewn in.
A ring above the waist of the pants?
It's sort of like torn jeans in that like torn jeans are meant to look like unintentional, but like here they are.
Yes, but what would you call it? Like if you had to call it something that
they're saggy pants. They're saggy
like
jeans.
an extension.
Yeah.
It's like a pants extension, but instead of going down, they go up. So he goes, what are these? And he goes, oh yeah, mid-90s hip-hop for the heartland. See, my mother was trying to help me be more cool, and in order to do so, she took me to Sears, where they took the guesswork out of exposing underpants. God. So instead of people in the heartland putting on boxer shorts and then jeans and
letting them ride down,
choosing the correct amount of underwear exposure that would be cool, Sears took 32% of a pair of boxers, the top part of the boxers, sewed them to the top of the jeans, so you would never be curious or incorrect in the amount of underwear exposure.
Now, here's my question.
You were giving.
On that pair of pants, obviously they are not meant to be worn with a belt, but are the belt loops functional?
Oh, I would imagine they're functional.
I'd like to think that the person wearing those pants is also wearing a pair of briefs.
Probably.
Like standard white briefs.
Yes, just like normal ass, like Walter White tighty whities.
Hanes tighty whities with the cotton boxers pulled up over them.
The 30% of the cotton boxers. Yes.
I don't think there's any boxers below the waistline of the pant.
I think
that's what I'm saying. It's sewed right into the top of the jeans.
Yeah.
Maybe the boxers are the belt.
And there's like probably a false inseam on the inside of the pant. So there's the true inseam, and then there's the false inseam that hangs down because the jeans are meant to be saggy.
Yeah,
like a suit jacket pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little banana hammock for you. Yep, okay.
Just to give you the support that you need.
Yep.
But also give the illusion of saggy bottoms.
Ooh.
Very attractive.
Saggy Bottoms, new band name, I call it.
Saggy Bottoms. The Saggy Bottom Boys?
Yeah, Saggy Bottom Boys.
The Saggy Bottom Boys.
All right. So...
Bunch of 50-year-old guys doing a revival of 90s hip-hop.
Are we learning?
I believe we are, Laura.
Are we ready for ratings?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's riggedy raggedy rate.
Go ahead.
All right, I will give this one a 6.1 leaky waterbeds.
6.1 leaky waterbeds. I got it there. I got you there. 6.1. Yep, that's 6.1.
I don't care who you are. That's funny right there.
That's funny right there. Yeah. I am going to give this movie a 6.4 Flappy Hats.
Yeah.
I was between... Well, I'll let Mark go, and I'll tell you what I was between.
Besides A Rock and a Hard Place?
I'm always between there.
The Hard Place is my favorite.
If it wasn't between The Rock and the Hard Place, I wouldn't have a home.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go with a 6.9
Ooh.
kitten wet sacks. I don't know what the correct term is here.
Amniotic sex.
Amniotic kitten sacks? How about that?
Amniotic kitten sacks.
I learned something today.
Not to be confused with amniotic kitten sex.
That is a very different thing that you just said with your mouth words.
That's a band name.
Amniotic kitten sex. Amniotic. Yes, you are. Yes, you are correct.
It could be grunge. But yeah, no, I didn't.
No, they are thrash metal.
Oh, God.
There is no grunge in that. That is aggressive and angry.
One could make an argument for speed metal, but I think thrash metal is appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
You just see. I didn't know that kittens were birthed in bags.
Not all of them. Some of them. This is not like a universal thing.
I mean,
So all babies of mammals are in an amniotic sac.
But none of them come out in like a Ziploc bag.
That's because they're...
You can't say none of them. Some of them do, and that's what you learn.
That's because they're water breaks.
No, this is all cats.
That's the amniotic sac breaking.
This is all sex.
It's all sex.
It's all sex.
Is that the third band? Did we just hit the 3 bands right in a row? It's all sex?
That's definitely a ska band.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, shit. It's sax with
Yeah.
with the X. Yeah. S-A-X. Yeah. It's all sax.
Yep. Okay, so we done rated this Bees Natch. What other kind of rating could we potentially throw at this?
Could we give it a scene score?
Scene score.
Scene score.
Mark went baritone on us there. Let's see. Okay, wait. Well, this was a tight grouping today. On our scores,
6-1,
yeah.
6-4, 6-9.
6-1, 6-4, 6-9, so they say. So our average rating was 6.5.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
In there. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, that was tight. Wait, what was the other movie where we all had really tight scores?
Ooh, I'd have to
Shit,
look
it was a
at 'em.
drama. I can't remember, but this might rival that. Okay,
Was
so
it Victoria and Abdul?
no, I think it was before that. But for our scene score, we had a good response rate this time. Thank you, all of you who responded and contributed to the scene score. Our average familiarity was 1.5 out of 10.
Wow.
Not good. I am so fucking shocked at that. I mean, it's just, this was a kind of a higher profile movie. I mean, it wasn't like Mystery Men, but it was, you know, not obscure.
See, and the thing is, I was 9 when this movie came out, so I missed the pre-adolescent boat, per se, and then I think the hype had died by the time I hit that margin.
Fair enough.
So I would say that a lot of folks that are in their late 20s, early 30s would have missed this movie entirely.
So our 6.5 combined with the low familiarity puts this movie at a solid 7.5
Nice.
for the scene score. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I think this movie deserves more renown.
I'll definitely be talking about it now.
Right. Like, people are going to hopefully know about this movie now.
Busting the lid like wide open.
I mean, with our listenership,
Oh,
I mean, we are literally exposing this movie to, like, tens of people.
true facts.
Yeah, I mean, kind of a big deal. I mean,
7.5 out of 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fucking go see Loser. It's awesome.
Don't be a loser. Go watch Loser.
yeah.
Jackson, Mark and I have been talking, and look, we're saying this just for your own good. Nobody likes you.
That's probably accurate.
Just be less like you,
I'll work on it.
and then we'll like you.
Yeah, I'll work on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever need somebody to talk to, if you got some things on your heart, on your mind, you know who to go to.
Somebody else?
Somebody else.
Yeah.
Just bottle them up.
Yeah.
Just right inside where they can do no harm.
Turn it off.
God.
Like a light switch. Just go click.
Okay, so that is all, I think, for the All Crap Review. Thank you for listening. If you have any ideas for what movies are similar to the movies that we've reviewed, please let us know and we'll read those recommendations out loud in future episodes. That way people can kind of gain a web of movies that are similar, that they enjoyed.
Yeah, if you liked this movie, we'll give you some options that you would also like.
Yeah. If you want to get involved and contribute to the scene score and get a peek at upcoming movies by taking our short weekly-ish movie familiarity survey, email us at 3, that is the number 3, men and a basement at gmail.com. Alternatively, you can go to our website, TMAAB, which stands for 3 men and a basement, .podbean.com. Please be sure to check out the Saggy Bottom Boys. They smell, but the music's pretty good.
Yeah.
Also on that tour, I believe, is Amniotic Kitten Sex.
They also smell, but very differently.
Wow, the smell it's pungent.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's wet, but it'll keep you dry.
Yeah.
It will. I mean, we were eating pudding, and let's just say that Amniotic Kitten Sex sounds a little like...
It's true.
Put that away.
Not happy about that. I'm just...
It's a fact.
Stating the facts. And speaking of that, it's all sax.
It's all sax.
It's all sax. They're bringing up the rear. Thank God.
Well, yeah, anyway, it's just like cigars and trumpets for me.
Yep.
They're all on tour now. So, yeah, you can also find us, the 3 men, the Ultra Crepidarians, on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. And until then, I'm Colin McLeod.
Mark up.
Action Jackson.
And we'll see you in cyberspace.